Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Today's the day I'm going to put my tomatoes, or a good chunk of my tomatoes, out into my garden. It's May 10th today, so I still have a couple of weeks until my average last frost date, but if you caught one of my recent videos, you'll see that I've put up some of my wall of water, cozy coat type things here behind me, and they will keep my tomatoes well protected. I've been bringing the tomatoes out during the day just to let them get accustomed to the brighter sunshine, stronger sunshine, and some wind. Really, they're still going to be pretty protected, pretty much like they'd be in a greenhouse anyways in these containers here, but it doesn't hurt them to just get a little extra sunshine and be outside a little bit anyways. So my goal is to get these planted. Hi, Buster. Hi. So I'll try and get these planted. I'm going to try and remember to get the stakes in the ground while I'm planting the ones that need to be staked. Don't always accomplish that. And then I have some of my flowers. These are the ones that I planted by seed indoors in April, but there's also several of these that I can be putting out now straight into the ground, so that I'll have some blooms, you know, in a month or so. So I'm going to get some of these planted. I have some zinnias, some cosmos. I'm not sure what all I have in here that I'm going to plant, but I have my garlic bed beside me here, so I'm going to get some put in there, and I'll maybe put a few in some of the other places in the garden, and that'll get me a jump start on those. With so much time I have left, I'd like to get a little bit of onions put in between my rows of tomatoes, and we'll see. Working around these wall waters isn't the easiest, so we'll see. I might get that done today as well. And then I'm hoping to get a few flowers out. My front pots are looking disastrous right now, so I'm hoping to get a few things that have been hardened off. Won't be brilliant display, but just a couple of things out by my front door just to look a little better than they do now. And I think that'll be a pretty full afternoon, so I'm going to get started on that. I won't show you everything, but I thought I would show you one tomato. I have one cozy coat that I guess I didn't have enough repair sleeves to keep it standing up, so it's come down here. So I'll use some stakes. I'll fill it up and use some stakes just to hold it up for now. But I thought while it's down, that's a good spot to show you how I plant my tomatoes. So I'm gonna do that real quick and give you a peek at that, and then I'll maybe just get some of this stuff done, bring you along for some of it, and give you an overview when I'm done. So I've picked one of my favorite tomatoes to show you how I plant them. This is a Manitoba tomato. It's a great tomato. It's a bush type or determinate type tomato. It's great for cool, short season climates like myself here in Saskatchewan. I'm a growing zone 3B. So this is a great tomato for that climate, and it will easily mature in my 110 frost-free growing days, and it'll give me a pretty good harvest. So my plan is to put more of my bush tomatoes towards the front and the outside, and then I have 11 staking tomatoes, so they'll go mostly down the middle except for this one, and a couple on the ends there. But this bush tomato I'll put right in the front here. It's one of my favorites. It'll be one of my earlier tomatoes, and I can get to it right away. So I don't do everything exactly the same every year, but there's a few general rules when doing tomatoes, and one is that you can plant them deep. So tomatoes, especially ones that have been grown in our own homes, but even those that we pick up at the store often start to get a little bit leggy, and it doesn't hurt to bury them down deeper than they were in the can. So I'm going to take off these two stems at the bottom here. Now you could stick these in water or even in just damp soil, and they will root, and you could get more plants from these if you're looking to get more plants. And roots will grow off of this portion of the stem when it gets buried. So that's why we make them just a little bit deeper, so that we can get just a little bit more root development and just feed the plant to make it a bit stronger. If you can't dig down deep enough to do that, then you can actually do a trench and just kind of bend your tomato so it's laying flat in the trench, and then bend it up and it will grow upwards. It might be kind of crooked for a little while, but it'll soon start going straight up for you. So I'm just going to do this a little bit deeper because I have room to do that. My raised beds are full of a mixture of peat moss and composted manure, my own homemade compost, vermiculite, and then I mulch with like grass clippings and things every year, so they get lots of good nutrients and organic matter added to them. So I'm just putting a little bit of a slow release fertilizer. It's just a 448, and I'm gonna take the rose off my watering can. And this bed isn't as dry as I thought it would be, but we've had a couple of very dry years here, and so I just want to make sure there's plenty of moisture in the soil where this tomato is going to be growing. This bed probably got pretty well watered when I filled up the cozy coats a few days ago, because I tend to spill a lot of water when I do that. So I'm going to keep the tag so I can look at it. And I didn't break up the roots or anything. You can see it has a really nice root system on it. And I'm just going to put it down just a little bit deeper. And I mean, you could keep going even deeper if you wanted, but it's not necessary. I just like to go deep enough to give it the room it needs, to give it some extra support and strength. If they get really long, then they'll easily break off in the wind. So then that's all that is to it. If it was a staking variety of tomato, I would just pound a stake down in the ground right now beside it, so less chance of damaging the root system. Now that's when I remember to stake them. I don't always remember to stake them, so sometimes I come along later and do it. Now I'm going to give it just a small band of fertilizer around the outside. And I'll water it in again. No, Buster. Water it in again. And I'll be putting the cozy coat back on. What do we have going on over here, Bus? Little birdie. Have you fallen, little birdie? Have you fallen? What are you doing? I've never had this happen before. To show you, I've never had this happen before, but I could hear this sound behind me. And I don't know how well you can see. The tree swallow has fallen into one of my cozy coats, and it doesn't seem to be able to get out. I have never had that happen before, but I don't know if I've ever had the tomatoes in right underneath. I have a birdhouse right above there, and I'm wondering if it somehow fell from there, because I always build in that house, and down into here. So let's see if I can get it out without hurting it. I think what I'll try and do is lift the cozy coat off. Hopefully I can get it off without hurting the tree swallow. Hello, little birdie. I don't want you to fly at me though. There. Well, that's a first. I've been using these for years. I've never managed to trap any wildlife or birds or anything inside these. I'm glad I came out here today and heard that. I'll have to make sure that I'm closing up the tops of these cozy coats that are right under that greenhouse. I had left them open. I have to make sure I pin them shut so that that doesn't happen again. I really like having those tree swallows here, so I don't want to hurt them, that's for sure. I can see one out flying up in the sky here now, so I'm thinking that's it, because it seems like it took off right away. But yikes. Okay, now I'm gonna get back to planting my tomatoes now that we've got that little bird out of here. Okay, so I got 21 tomatoes planted here. None of these are my cherry tomatoes, but I have my paste tomatoes. I think I have 3-4 kinds of paste tomatoes in here, and then I have some big slicer and kind of beefsteak style, like black crim, Manitoba, Japanese black trifeli, mortgage lifter. So those in here, and that's 21 tomatoes altogether. I refilled this one cozy coat here, and I just put a couple of stakes in it, and that should help keep it up. It's really, I can tell it's missing. It has holes in a lot of the sleeves. I might see if I can get some tuck tape or something to try and seal it up a little bit another day. Got my stakes in for my staking tomatoes. It's always good to remember. And I've clipped the tops of, I think, 6 of the cozy coats that are right under that birdhouse right in that area there. I'm not sure, I've never seen a bird or anything ever inside of one before, so I really have to keep an eye on that. Hopefully it was a one-off thing, and hopefully they come back and that didn't scare it away, because I love having those tree swallows there every year. But it didn't look like it was hurt or anything. I think it just fell in and probably wasn't in there that long. So now I'm gonna go through my seeds that I brought out and plant a few flowers in with the garlic bed, and I think I'll put a few seeds in over in the bed. I think it's bed number 7. That's going to have some corn and squash and cucumbers and things in it later on, but I'll get some flowers started in there for now. And then try and get out to the front yard. But I just want to be really clear, like, I'm putting my tomatoes out like 2 weeks early from my average last frost date. You absolutely cannot do that unless you have something really good for protection for them like this. They cannot take that kind of cold just being put out like that. And if you're putting them out, anything out in cold, cooler weather like this, where you might still be getting frosts or very close to it, you want to make sure that they're very well watered, that water in the root area, you know, the nice moist soil, is really going to go a long way to help protecting them. It acts as a heat sink to let off heat at night. It'll absorb, wet soil will absorb a lot more heat than dry soil will. And you know, you don't want them too dry because that'll stress them out. At the same time, you don't want them waterlogged and rotting either, but make sure that you're not falling behind on your watering when you're putting things out in the cool times. So I'm going to pick some zinnias out to put in with my garlic. As you probably know if you've watched any of my flower videos, I love zinnias. So I think I'll do some, let's see, some Cinderella Peach and some Benary's Giant in here. And I was out here planting peas and carrots the other day, and I'm not sure where I left my marker, so I think I'll just use pink to mark that I'm putting the Cinderella Peach, where I'm putting that, and the blue for the Benary's Giant, and then I'll come back and label them later. I have a lot of fall leaves on here as mulch, so I'm going to just pull them kind of back where I'm going to plant Try not to break any garlic that hasn't come through yet. Make room to put some seeds in. So I'll put 3 in each hole. Okay, so that's Benry's Giant. I have 5 little spots of those mixed in with the garlic. And it looks like I have 3 pink tags, so I'll put 3 little bunches of Zinderella peach right here in this area. Hopefully I have enough seeds. This is feeling kind of empty. Oh yeah. So there, and this soil is nice and damp because I've watered it. I've turned the sprinklers on just to water it a couple of times, and it has all this leaf mulch on it, so keeps it really, really nice and damp and a little bit cool, but the seeds won't mind that. So that'll be nice to have some zinnias in with the garlic because, you know, garlic's not that exciting to look at. Now, this bed's pretty empty right now, but it will be full of squash and things later on. So this bed's gonna have squash and corn and I think cucumbers in it. I forget what all. It's gonna be a busy bed, but the corn's gonna be kind of down this side. So I think if I put a few zinnias maybe down the center area, then that would look pretty nice. And maybe bring a little something growing in here before I can get some of those warmer things going. How about Sahara lemonade? And then I just have 2 tags in here, so I'll maybe I'll put a row of Sahara lemonade kind of down the middle and just put a tag at either end of where it's going to be. Start them here. See how many we have. Now, zinnias usually take about 5 to 10 days to start coming up. Sometimes they'll, come up right away. So it is a bit of a risk putting them out this early. But generally, they'll do all right. They can handle a little bit of cold. The wind decided to get up right now. So usually they can handle just a little bit of colder temperatures and when they're first coming up. And I'm not putting a lot out here, so I can always come and put a little bit of harvest cloth or something over them if I need to. If it decides to be really cold after they sprouted. Just 2 more in here. Some. get some water on those because this bed's still pretty dry. So it's Sahara Raspberry Lemonade. Okay, so really quick look because the tulips are blooming in my front yard. Aren't they beautiful? There's a couple of pink ones right here. That color, it's gorgeous. Columbines are coming up, things are coming up. Now, for the sad confession. Oh my goodness, look at this. This is so sad. Okay, this is not welcoming. And I've been leaving this and leaving it. I'd put out, these are pots of bulbs. The smaller pot here was pots of bulbs I'd overwintered. I do this lots. It usually works for me. Overwintered them in a cold space, but it just was not cold enough this year, I can tell, because they just didn't grow up and do anything proper. The other one looks almost as bad, though it was in more sun and they grew a little bit more green, looking a little bit better that way. And then the middle is pansy I'd started early. And there was some little snapdragons I'd started early, hoping for some really early color this spring, but it just looks sad and it's been too cold for, we had some really cold nights that came back in April. Oh, it just looks terrible. So I've got to take this, I'll keep these pansies. I don't know about the snapdragons. I'll pull the tulip bulbs up, plant them out in the yard, and they may come back for me next year. That's all my daffodils and acidanthera that not daffodils, dahlias and acidanthera. Just pulled them out in the warmth for the day. They'll go back in the garage tonight. Okay, so this is my plan for this little area. As you may have noticed, I'm in complete shade right now, and it's like not quite 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So this area only gets about 3-4 hours of sun a day, and it's intense hot midday sun. So this won't be my final planting here, but I have, this is Salpiglosis that I started from seed March 25th. These are a really nice shade plant, and they grow pretty tall, and they're actually good for cut flowers too. They're one of my favorite shade plants. They're very pretty, very interesting bloom on them. And then I just have some of the osteos that I'd purchased at the grocery store a few weeks ago now, and I still had a few left in my cold frame. Did have that. You can see the spotting on the leaves. That's not disease. That's diatomaceous earth. I noticed that they had some thrips on them, so I had mixed up a batch of water and diatomaceous earth and was spraying them with it just to try and take care of that. And oh, still a few there, so I'll have to spray them again, but I don't know. I don't really deal with thrips a lot. And then there's just a few more pansies that I picked up. Same thing. They just got sprayed because they were by the osteos. So let's see what we can do to get these planted and get these planters looking a little better. Like I said, this won't be the final planting, but get something looking better here. I just dumped those pots with the tulips in them out and kind of separated out the bulbs. So I have the bulbs. I tried to keep the greenery attached because that's going to be what feeds those bulbs, and I'll try and find a spot to plant them out. And hopefully they come back for me next year. I'm not sure. Most of them looked really good. I did have a couple that were squishy and rotten. So I don't know if they got too much cold, wet, what happened with those. And then some of these over here some of the ones over in this pot don't even look like they'd sprouted yet. So I'm just really not sure. I think it just didn't get cold enough in their storage space. So there's some of the plants. There's the pansies that were in there, and then the ones that I purchased, the osteos, and then the Salpiglosis over there. I just kind of moved the pots around. I don't know if I really love that look, but I'm going to try and do it not totally matching, just because there's more sun that happens over on this side and less on this side. So I'll try and put mostly Salpiglosis with a few pansies over here, and the osteos over on this side with the rest of the pansies, and won't be perfect, but it'll look better than what I had there. So obviously these aren't flowering yet, and they don't look like a lot, but they're greenery, and they will take off once they get planted. This little spot here is pretty protected just because of how it faces. Has, you know, the house on one side and the garage on another side. So it usually stays fairly protected, and I can usually get things planted out a little bit earlier. These have been in my cold frame for several weeks now, so they should be pretty hardened off, and they won't get a ton of wind in here. So they should do all right. They get pretty tall. I'm trying to remember. I think it's around 18 to 24 inches tall, and they get like a purple flower with kind of yellow throat. They're just a really unique pattern to them. One in this corner here. Oops. And they'll fill out, they'll spread and fill out a little bit. And then I think I'll just put one pansy here for right now. And later on, when my begonias and impatiens, when it's warm enough to put those out. When it's warm enough to put my begonias and impatiens out, then they'll go in this area, and they'll take the shade nicely. So I might add a couple more pansies in here, but I want to see how many I have once I get through all of this. This is one of the pansies that I grew from seed in like January. I think I need another pansy in the back there. This one might be a yellow one. Let's put a yellow one in there. The rest all look purple. And I didn't change out the soil. I just popped all the old soil back in here. I'll change it out when I'm freshening these up, when the final plantings go in. These plants will only be here probably a month or so in the big pots, and I can add some more fertilizer to the smaller pots if I need to. There's some fertilizer in this water here. Okay, and since this pot gets so much sunshine, I think I'll just put a couple of these osteos in here. I think some people call these African daisies. This one's called Margarita Yellow. And again, these have been just in my cold frame since I bought them, so I'm not too worried about having them in this area here. We're still getting freezing at night. This area should be pretty protected, and I'll just keep them damp, and that should help. Put a few pansies in here. this little pot here, that these little pots are very dry. I'll really have to make sure I'm watering them. And then I'll just put this pansy that I started in January. Here. And this one right here. So there, I think that looks a little more inviting. It's still not, you know, the full display that I would prefer, but this time of year, this is about as nice as it can get here. We're still, like I said, getting down to freezing at night, so I don't want to risk too many precious plants out here. But I think it looks really nice. Bright papa yellow looks great right now, and these plants, you know, they'll fill in and make for a bigger display soon enough. These will probably only be here for probably about a month. These big pots for sure, I would say a month to 6 weeks, and then I'll be getting them full of heat-loving plants, and they'll actually be going in front of my garage where they're exposed to a lot of very hot, full sun weather and a lot of wind. So that'll be a very different planting from what they're getting here in this protected little shady site. But I got a lot accomplished this afternoon. I'm happy with it. I got my tomatoes planted out. I got some zinnia seeds in the ground. I got these pots fixed up. So now I'm just going to have to go and find somewhere to pop those tulips, just in case they might, you know, come back for me next year. But otherwise, I think I've had a pretty productive afternoon, so I'm pretty happy with that. So thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along with me today, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.